Kemi handed him a briefcase stuffed with crisp naira notes to Lekin, a wiry mechanic with debts deeper than the Obi Hill Lagoon, who she hired to tamper with Uzodima's Bentley. Lekin sliced the brake lines and loosened the lug nuts on the rear tires, with his hands trembling as he sealed Uzodima's fate. Hours later, Uzodima's Bentley careened down the rain-slicked Calabar highway and tore through the dusk as the car flipped, smashing into a guardrail. Paramedics rushed him to Apex Medical Center, where doctors declared him comatose. At Apex Medical Center lay a millionaire patient. A man who once commanded boardrooms now lay still. Uzodima Okoye, 33, heir to Okoye Conglomerate, a conglomerate spanning tech, real estate, and luxury hotels across West Africa. His face, once a staple in Forbes' Africa. Uzodima's eyes blinked once, then again, fully. He was awake for the first time in weeks. His gaze found hers, and something inside her chest tightened. He wasn't just responding with fingers or breath. Now he was looking at her, and it was like being seen for the first time. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "Hi," she whispered. "You're really back."
In the dim glow of a private lounge at Nike Hotel, Kemi Okoye, Uzodima's step-aunt, sipped Zobo drink, her gold-embroidered Ankara gown masking the venom in her heart. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, fixed on Ugo, Uzodima's cousin, whose restless fingers toyed with a diamond-encrusted cufflink. "Uzodima's too stubborn," Kemi hissed, her voice low, barely audible over the hum of Obi Hill nightlife. "He's blocking the merger that'll make us billions. If we control Okoye Conglomerate, we control West Africa's future." Ugo leaned forward, his greed glinting like the city lights beyond the window. "What's the plan, Auntie?" "He's untouchable." Kemi's lips curled into a smile, cold and calculated. "Not if he's gone. I know a man, an engineer, Lekin. He can make accidents happen. No questions, no traces." The air thickened with their shared malice, the seed of betrayal planted in a single, whispered word. "Do it." Lekin, a wiry mechanic with debts deeper than the Obi Hill Lagoon, met them at midnight in a derelict garage off the Ozizoara Expressway. Under flickering fluorescent lights, Kemi handed him a briefcase stuffed with crisp naira notes. "Tamper with Uzodima's Bentley," she instructed, her voice ablade. "Brake lines, tires, make it look like wear and tear. He drives to Calabar tomorrow. The road's treacherous enough." Lekin hesitated, sweat beading on his brow, but Ugo's glare silenced his doubts. "You want your family fed or not?" Ugo snapped. By dawn, Lekin had sliced the brake lines and loosened the lug nuts on the rear tires, his hands trembling as he sealed Uzodima's fate. As Kemi and Ugo drove away, their laughter mingled with the roar of engines, a hymn to their greed, oblivious to the tragedy they'd unleashed. Hours later, Uzodima's Bentley careened down the rain-slicked Calabar highway, its tires wobbling, brakes useless. The screech of metal on asphalt tore through the dusk as the car flipped, smashing into a guardrail. Uzodima, heir to Okoye Conglomerate, lay bloodied amidst twisted steel, his pulse faint but defiant. Paramedics rushed him to Apex Medical Center.
Hello guys, haven't subscribed yet? Please subscribe now, hit the like button, and leave a comment to help.
Where doctors declared him comatose, a scar on his jaw the only mark of the crash. In their Victoria Island penthouse, Kemi and Ugo toasted with champagne, their plot seemingly flawless. The champagne bubbles tickled Kemi's tongue, a bitter sweetness mirroring the triumph in her heart. Ugo, beside her, nervously swirled his glass, the diamond cufflinks flashing under the penthouse's chandelier. Their victory, however, felt brittle, a fragile facade built on a foundation of deceit and death. Uzodima, miraculously clinging to life, remained comatose, a ticking time bomb threatening to unravel their meticulously crafted web of lies. "The board will bend now," Kemi purred, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "Okoye Conglomerate is ours." But in the sterile silence of Uzodima's hospital suite, his fingers twitched, a secret spark of consciousness flickering beneath his stillness. The betrayal was complete, but the war for his empire, and his life, had just begun. News of the accident, spun as a tragic mishap, had sent ripples through the business world. The board of Okoye Conglomerate, initially hesitant, began to lean towards Kemi's proposal for the merger, seduced by the promise of unprecedented profits. Meanwhile, at the Apex Medical Center where Uzodima was rushed to, lay a millionaire patient. A man who once commanded boardrooms now lay still, a thin scar on his temple, the only mark of the crash that had nearly taken his life. Or so the world believed. What they didn't know was this. Uzodima Okoye was in a coma. Either recovered or he's pretending. In the room, plays a symphony of soft beeps and filtered sunlight. Everything was white. White curtains, white walls, white bed sheets, white silence. In the center of it all lay a man who hadn't moved in 12 days. His name was Uzodima Okoye, 33, heir to Okoye Conglomerate, a conglomerate spanning tech, real estate, and luxury hotels across West Africa. His face, once a staple in Forbes Africa, was still, a faint scar on his jaw, the only remnant of a car crash on the Ozizoara Expressway. The world believed he was in a coma, but when he hears his nurse's confession, everything around him changes. He falls in love with her voice before her face, with her courage before her touch. Uzodima was awake, his eyes shut but his mind racing. He'd come to, for days after the crash, the memory of screeching tires and a tampered brake line burning in his mind. He chose silence, feigning coma to uncover who wanted him gone. His empire was at stake, and so was his life. Outside his suite, the thick glass door of his private hospital, muffled voices broke the quiet. Voices hissed like static. "This is our moment, Hugo," said Kemi, Uzodima's step-aunt, her voice sharp as a tailor's scissors. Draped in a custom Ankara gown, she was the picture of elegance, but her words dripped venom. "The board is panicking. If we don't act, Okoye Conglomerate will slip through our fingers." Hugo, Uzodima's cousin, adjusted his agbada, his gold watch glinting. But the lawyer, Namdi, is still loyal to him. And that nurse, she's too nosy. Kemi's laugh was cold. Namdi's loyalty can be bought. As for the nurse, keep her in line. We control the narrative. Uzodima may never wake. Soon, we'll control everything. They perform a ritual blessing to feign public concern, ironically using traditional rites they privately scorn. Inside the room, Uzodima's heart pounded beneath the surface of his motionless body. So, it was true. He had suspected the crash wasn't an accident. A last-minute trip to Calabar ended with a shredded guardrail, a flipped car, and a diagnosis of non-traumatic coma. But Uzodima had regained consciousness within 4 days and chosen not to speak. Not yet. He needed time. He needed to know who had betrayed him. And now, at least partly, he did. His family, his own blood, wanted him erased. The door slid open, and softer footsteps entered. Footsteps slower this time. Different. Uzodima knew that rhythm already. Gentle, careful, measured. Her presence was different, like a breeze through a stuffy room angel. "Good morning, Mr. Okoye," she said, her Igbo accent warm but professional. Her voice was soft but clear. No false sweetness. "It's just me." She moved around the bed with calm efficiency, checking his vitals, adjusting his blanket, brushing his hair back slightly with a practiced hand. There was no pity in her touch, only professionalism, and something else, something Uzodima couldn't name yet. "It's just us now. Let's keep you comfortable," she whispered. "Your vitals are strong today," she said, scribbling in her chart. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I don't know if you can hear me, but something's not right here. I hear things. Your family, they talk like you're already gone." She glanced at the door. "I became a nurse to save lives, not to watch them fade. I'm watching, Mr. Okoye. I'm watching for you." Uzodima had watched her through slitted eyes when she thought no one saw. Angel, 28, was no ordinary nurse. She sang Igbo hymns under her breath, read storybooks to him at night while changing his four, and sang inspirational local proverbs, sharing warmth in their nightly rituals. She treated him like a human being. Not a lost cause. And she never said anything cruel. Not like Kemi's fake tears or Hugo's crocodile smiles. Your levels look stable today, Angel said quietly, scribbling something into the chart. That's good. She sat beside him, sighing softly. Uzodima felt heat rise in his chest. Angel, his night nurse, was speaking. Was she about to cross the line, utter the truth that danced on the edge of his own awareness? He listened carefully, heart still. I took this job because I needed the money. That's not a crime. I didn't ask too many questions because, well, life doesn't let me. But now that I'm here, I see things. I hear things, and they don't sit right. She glanced toward the door. Your cousin came in yesterday when you were asleep, or well, asleep. He told someone over the phone that you weren't waking up any time soon, and the tone in his voice. She swallowed, the sound amplified in the quiet room. It scared me. I don't know what kind of family you have, Mr. Okoye, but I think they want you gone. Uzodima's finger twitched, a reflex he couldn't stop. Angel didn't notice. I should say nothing, she whispered. I should just take my paycheck and keep quiet, but I can't. I've lost too much already. I became a nurse to help people. And whether you're listening or not, I won't be part of something that lets someone fade away just because they're inconvenient. She stood slowly. I'm going to start keeping 2 logs, she murmured. One for them and one that's honest. Angel's words lit something in him. Hope, fragile but fierce. Hope that hadn't dared to flicker since the moment he realized Kemi's betrayal. Kemi, his own blood, whispering sweet nothings while plotting his demise. It was all about the conglomerate. Kemi, always envious of Uzodima's success, now saw his chance to seize the Okoye empire. Uzodima felt something stir in his chest that hadn't moved in a long time. He tried to remember the feel of sun on his face. Here's to making Angel adjusted the 4-1 last time, then placed a book on the table beside him. Tonight, I'm going to read to you something real, something human. She walked out without another word. The door clicked shut, and in the stillness, Uzodima Okoye blinked once, slow, controlled. He would wait, but not for long. The nights at Apex Medical were quiet, when the silence felt loudest with the hum of generators blending with Obi Hill, distant pulse. After the last round of checks and the cleaning staff left, Angel would dim the lights and sit by Uzodima's bedside. The only sounds the soft beep of machines and the wind brushing the high windows of the private recovery wing. It had been 3 weeks since she took the assignment. 3 weeks of watching Uzodima Okoye, once a name she had only seen in magazines and headlines, lie still like a statue carved from grief. But something was off. Deeply off. She noticed it first with the medications. On her second week, she checked the chart and paused. The sedative dosage hadn't changed despite no signs of agitation, seizures, or trauma. In fact, it hadn't been reviewed at all. Then came the nutrition logs. The physician's visits were increasingly rare. Vitals were logged, but never evaluated. Even the speech therapist, who was supposed to visit weekly, hadn't shown up once. And yet there was no urgency from anyone, no concern, just polite nods and cold reminders to stick to protocol. She had worked in enough care facilities to know the quiet signs of negligence. But this felt like something else, something intentional. That evening, she brought in her own copy of Married but Single, a book her mother used to read when nights at home felt too dark. She flipped through the pages as she spoke to Uzodima. You probably hate this book, she said softly, placing it on the table. I mean, you're a businessman, practical, hotels, contracts, numbers, but I always like this one. It's about someone who gets lost and then finds meaning in the simplest things. She reached for his wrist, checking his pulse again. Still steady, still strong. You know, she added, glancing at the 4-bag. I asked Dr. Adebayo yesterday about your sedative dose. He brushed me off. Said it was per family request. No adjustment, no taper plan, just status quo. His tone was a warning, his voice turned sharp with frustration. Angel, stick to your duties. I became a nurse to help people get better, not stay stuck. She stood, walked to the window, and pressed a hand to the glass. I don't know who you really are, Uzodima, but I'm starting to believe you're more awake than anyone wants to admit. Her fingers curled into a fist. I'm changing your protocol. Not everything, Just a little. I know how to do it without raising alarms, and if anyone asks, I'll take the heat. She turned back to him. But I can't sit by and watch you disappear like this. I've done that before, and I can't do it again. She reached for her notebook and began writing in a second log, one she kept hidden in her locker, a real record of meds, reflex responses, vitals, and her own observations. She didn't notice that Uzodima's eyes moved slightly beneath their lids. At midnight, she returned with her thermos of Zobo drink on the table, and a blanket draped over her shoulders. I should go home, she whispered. But I can't sleep anyway. She sat beside him again, pulled out the book, and opened to the first chapter. And then, after a moment of stillness, she closed it. Instead, she spoke, not to fill the air, but to empty her heart. I wasn't supposed to be your nurse, you know, she said. I was filling in for someone else. Emergency call. The original nurse backed out last minute. I didn't ask why. Her voice cracked. I thought it was fate. Finally, an assignment that paid enough to help me pay off my dad's loans he borrowed for my schooling. But now she leaned forward, elbows on her knees. I heard Kemi say something in the hallway. She thought I was on break. She said, we just need to keep him sedated until things are finalized. Hugo nodded like it was nothing. Angel paused, her hands trembled. I came here to help, but now I'm afraid I was hired to help someone die. She looked up at Uzodima, his face still and unmoved. I don't know if you can hear me, but I had to say it out loud. I won't do it. I won't be part of something cruel. She stood slowly, voice barely a whisper. I don't know what's going on, but I'm with you whether or not you ever wake up. She touched his hand lightly. You're not alone. And then she left, the door closing gently behind her. Inside the room, a single tear slipped from the corner of Uzodima's eye. He wasn't alone. And maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have to pretend for much longer. Angel said nothing to the doctors, nothing to the hospital director, nothing to the Okoye family. But every night she spoke to Uzodima. She told him about her life in bits and pieces. She shared stories of her life, growing up in Enugu, including the death of her younger brother due to a corrupt hospital's neglect. Her mother's pepper soup recipe and her dream of opening a clinic for rural women. She talked about her early days as a nursing student, patients who had changed her, shifts that broke her, and small kindnesses that kept her going. She talked about her father, a quiet engineer who believed that doing good didn't need an audience, it just needed consistency. Uzodima listened. He couldn't move much yet, couldn't speak, but he heard her. And it was more than the sound of her voice. It was the truth in it. In a world that had taught him to distrust everyone, Angel spoke like someone who hadn't yet given up on people. Every night, she arrived a little earlier, stayed a little longer. He was falling in love with her voice before her face, with her courage before her touch. He knew he needed her help to escape and expose Kemi's treachery. But he also knew that involving her put her in grave danger. He had to be careful. He had to find a way to communicate. She started experimenting with small neurological stimulation tests and herbal therapies, not anything that would raise red flags, just enough to see if his body could respond. A pinch of his palm, a light pressure on his eyelids. Gentle sensory cues. One evening, as she was adjusting his blanket, Kemi and Hugo visited again. They stood by the bedside, their expensive clothings reeking and smelling of power and arrogance. Still sleeping, cousin? Hugo sneered, his voice low and menacing. Such a shame. All that wealth, all that influence, gone to waste. But don't worry, we will make sure it's all put to good use. For the family, of course. He leaned closer, his breath hot on Uzodima's face. Uzodima felt a surge of adrenaline. He had to warn Angel. He had to protect her. As they turned to leave, Uzodima focused all his will, all his energy, on a single muscle in his hand. He twitched his finger. Just once. Upon hearing the twitching, Kemi stopped, her back to the bed. Hugo turned slowly, his face contorted in a mixture of shock and fury. Did you just move? Angel, who had been quietly taking notes at her station, looked up, feigning surprise. Move, sir? I didn't see anything. Hugo glared at her, suspicion burning in his eyes. I could have sworn. He trailed off, shaking his head. I must be imagining things. Just make sure he's comfortable, nurse. And keep him quiet. He strode out of the room, leaving a chilling silence in his wake.
Hello guys, haven't subscribed yet? Please subscribe now, hit the like button, and leave a comment to help.
Angel rushed to Uzodima's side, her eyes wide with alarm. Did you do that on purpose? Uzodima blinked once. Yes. Angel froze. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. She leaned in closer. There it was again. A slow, deliberate curl of his finger. Angel covered her mouth with both hands. Oh my God. She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over the stool behind her. Angel gasped. He knows. He suspects. We have to do something. For a few seconds, all she could do was stare at him, chest rising and falling fast, heart racing. Then she laughed, quiet and breathless, a stunned, joyful sound. You can hear me, she said, stepping back to his side. Uzodima, you're in there. You've been listening this whole time, haven't you? She blinked away tears, reaching for his hand. Okay. Oh, we're going to do this slowly. All right. One finger for yes, nothing for no. Can you understand that? A pause, then another curl of his finger. Angel let out a shaky laugh. This is insane. No one's going to believe this, but I do. I believe you. From that night on, everything changed. That night, Angel brought in a small, worn alphabet board. It belonged to the pediatric ward. Let's see if this works, she said, her voice trembling. She held the board in front of Uzodima, pointing to each letter in turn. Can you blink when I get to the right one? Their routine shifted. Now there was a new rhythm, a new language between them. One blink, one twitch, one squeeze. Yes, no, maybe. She brought flashcards, started using a basic alphabet chart. It was slow, sometimes frustrating, but Uzodima tried. He wanted to try. And Angel, she was patient, careful, and warm. She smiled every time he responded. She never rushed him. She never treated his limitations like burdens. The connection between them deepened. It was slow, agonizing work. But letter by letter, word by word, Uzodima began to communicate. Uzodima learned her favorite songs, her favorite flavor of zobo and coffee. Angel, in turn, learned things about him he had never told anyone. Not with words, just with looks, reactions, questions she would ask, and the way he would twitch once for yes. Stay still for no. You never wanted this life, did you? She asked one night, eyes scanning his chart while her fingers gently smoothed the edge of his sleeve, his finger curled. Yes, you just wanted peace, not power. Another yes. She sat down beside him. I think I get it. I never wanted to be a nurse just to pay the bills. I wanted to help. But somewhere along the way, I started surviving instead of living. Uzodima moved his hand slightly, trying to reach hers. She took it without hesitation. I won't let them do this to you, she said. I don't care what they want. You're coming back. We're going to get you back. In that moment, for the first time in years, Uzodima Okoye didn't feel like a name on a contract or a line in a will. He felt human because someone had chosen to believe in him even when he couldn't speak. And now with her help, he was ready to fight back. In the days that followed, a quiet current of urgency ran beneath every moment Angel and Uzodima shared. By day, Angel played the obedient nurse, logging routine notes, adjusting the four with steady hands, nodding politely to Kemi's condescending remarks, and Hugo's fake concern. But at night, she and Uzodima became something else. Not just patient and nurse, but partners, co-conspirators, survivors. She had memorized his signals. One twitch for yes, a finger tap for no. A faint breath change when something scared him. They were getting good at this. One evening, as she massaged his left hand to stimulate muscle tone, she whispered, I know you want to expose them, but we need proof. Real proof. And we need to be careful. Uzodima managed a faint blink, his newest response, then twitched his finger once. Yes, Angel pulled a tiny device from her pocket, a sleek pin-sized camera she had borrowed from a journalist friend. It wasn't hospital standard issue, but it was discreet, high resolution, and had saved more than one whistleblower in the past. "I'll place it in the medication cabinet," she said softly. "That's where Hugo and Kemi always talk when they think no one's around. I've seen them whispering, giving instructions to the night staff. It's time someone else saw what they're doing." Uzodinma's eyes flickered in agreement. That night, when she was certain no one was watching, Angel slipped into the bedroom. With gloved hands and a steady heartbeat, she hid the camera inside the corner of a ceiling panel just above the fridge where the controlled substances were stored. The motion sensor clicked to life. Now they waited. 2 nights later, the plan paid off. Angel returned to retrieve the camera early that morning before the cleaners arrived. She watched the footage in the break room. Headphones in, laptop open, heart pounding. At first, just silence, then footsteps. Hugo's voice. "She's getting too involved," he muttered. "That nurse, she's not stupid. Let her ask questions," Kemi replied calmly. "As long as she doesn't start writing reports, we're fine. Besides, we'll be done soon. We give it 2 more weeks, then we file the DNR motion." Angel froze. Uzodinma has no living will. Hugo said, "Won't that raise red flags? We'll claim a verbal directive. I've already spoken to the hospital board liaison. They're sympathetic. They want the mess gone. And the lawyer, I'm working on it. He'll be cut out of the next meeting." Then came the words that chilled Angel's blood. "All that's left is to keep him sedated," Kemi said. "And I want that nurse out of here once the paperwork's ready. She's seen too much." Angel sat in silence, hands trembling as the video finished. She saved the file 3 times, once to her USB, once to an encrypted cloud server, and once on her locked phone. Then with Uzodinma's help, she drafted a message to send it. "Who do we trust?" she asked. That night, sitting by his bed with her laptop, Uzodinma blinked once, then once again, Angel hesitated. 2 blinks. She opened her notebook, flipping to a list of names he had painstakingly helped her form letter by letter. At the top, Namdi Ugana, his father's old friend and legal advisor, Uzodinma's longtime personal attorney, a judge known for his incorruptibility, loyal, discreet, locked out by the family after Uzodinma's accident. "I'll send it to him," she said. "We'll know what to do." That night, she uploaded the video with a short message. "Mr. Namdi, I believe you are the only person who ever truly stood by Uzodima Okoye. He is alive, and what's happening here is a crime. This footage proves it. Please help us, Angel Ellis." She hit send. Then she held Uzodinma's hand and whispered, "They won't win." He moved his fingers in hers just slightly. It was enough. In the early hours of the morning, her phone buzzed. A message from Namdi Ugana. Subject, Re-G. Okoye Conglomerate received. "I'm on my way. Do not speak to anyone else. Keep him safe. We're not alone in this anymore." Angel turned to Uzodinma, still asleep, but no longer alone. The game had changed. Now it was time to fight back. Uzodinma opened his eyes on a Wednesday morning. It was subtle at first, just a sliver of hazel between his lashes. Angel had been adjusting his oxygen monitor when she noticed the flutter. Her breath caught. Uzodinma. His eyes blinked once, then again, fully. He was awake for the first time in weeks. His gaze found hers, and something inside her chest tightened. He wasn't just responding with fingers or breath. Now he was looking at her. And it was like being seen for the first time. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "Hi," she whispered. "You're really back." He tried to speak, but his throat was dry, unused. She shook her head gently, placed a finger to her lips. "Don't rush. We'll take it slow. You're safe." She helped him sit up, propped by pillows. It was a delicate process, but they had prepared for this moment. Muscle memory, reflex checks, incremental healing. What they hadn't prepared for was the quiet between them now. Not the silence of fear, but something sacred. Later that evening, she came back after her shift, carrying a thermos of zobo and tea in a small notebook. "Thought we might talk," she said. Real words this time. Uzodinma smiled faintly. His voice was rough, broken, but he managed one syllable. "Tea." She laughed, passing him the cup. They talked in short bursts over the next hour, him mostly listening, nodding, resting, but his eyes never left hers. She told him about the emails with Nnamdi Ugana, how he was coming with a legal team, how everything was set in motion. "You'll have control of your estate again," she said. "And justice, you just have to hold on a little longer." Uzodinma didn't answer immediately. Then softly, he rasped, "You held on for me." She nodded, suddenly unable to meet his gaze. A beat passed. The room dimmed around them. Uzodinma's hand reached slowly for hers. "You saved me," he whispered. Angel exhaled sharply, emotion rushing forward like a tide. "I didn't know what I was doing at first," she confessed. "I just knew I couldn't be part of something cruel. But the more I sat here with you, the more I read, the more I talked. She looked down. I started to care about the man you are. Not the money, not the name. Just you." Uzodinma's eyes softened. "Angel." She shook her head, blinking fast. "I know it's not professional. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I think I'm falling for you. And I hate that it's at the worst possible time." Her voice cracked. "You've been through hell. You don't need someone like me complicating things." Uzodinma's grip on her hand tightened ever so slightly. "You're the only thing that's made any of this make sense." Angel's breath caught. He smiled. "Weak but real. You didn't complicate anything. You brought me back." She wiped at her eyes with the sleeve of her cardigan, laughing softly through the tears. "This is insane," she said. "I'm crying over my patient." "I'm not your patient," he whispered. "Not anymore." Silence fell between them again, but it was warm now, like a held breath between two people who knew something had changed. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, and the city hummed beyond the hospital walls. Inside, Uzodinma and Angel sat hand in hand. Not yet lovers, not quite healed, but no longer afraid to feel. The war wasn't over, but they had each other now, and that was the start of something neither of them could name, but neither wanted to let go. The truth in the flame. Angel moved like a shadow through the corridors of Apex Medical Center, heart pounding with each step. Someone had taken the recorder. Someone knew. She checked over her shoulder twice, certain she was being watched. When she returned to Uzodinma's room, she closed the door behind her and locked it. He looked up from the bed, eyes alert despite his pale exhaustion. "The recorder's gone," she whispered. "Someone has been here. They know." Uzodinma blinked once, slow and steady. Not surprised. That evening, they made a plan. 2 days later, the threat arrived. Angel returned from her lunch break to find a note in her locker. No envelope. Just a single sheet, folded twice. "We've found your work. Leave. Or disappear." No name. No signature. Just the weight of a threat cloaked in silence. She showed it to Uzodinma. He reached for her hand. The sun rose over the city like a silent promise. Inside Uzodinma's penthouse suite at the private hospital, Angel helped him into a tailored gray suit, the first real clothes he had worn in weeks. He was still weak, moving slowly, but his eyes were sharper than they had ever been. "You sure about this?" Angel asked as she buttoned the cuffs of his shirt. Uzodinma nodded. "I won't hide anymore." Nnamdi Ugana arrived precisely at 9 a.m. with 2 assistants and a rolling briefcase full of sealed documents. The press conference is set for 10 o'clock. The hospital's boardroom is secure. Kemi and Hugo will be there. Uzodinma leaned back in his chair, fingers laced in front of him. "Then let's give them a show." That morning, the hospital held its annual donor gala in the rooftop garden. Kemi and Hugo would be there. And so would the board. Angel had her plan. She had looped Nnamdi in. He had arranged for a private press contact to attend in secret. The evidence would go live at midnight. All they needed was one last moment of truth. Uzodinma stood for the first time with her help, dressed in a simple dark tunic. His face gaunt, but his eyes were fire. "We go together," he said, voice hoarse but certain. Angel nodded. They moved like ghosts through the hallways, down the elevator, and onto the rooftop just as Kemi began his speech. The boardroom was full. Hospital executives, family members, a few well-dressed reporters who had been promised an exclusive on the fate of the Okoye conglomerate. Kemi stood at the head of the room, a vision of composed confidence in a cream blazer. Hugo just behind her, his smirk barely hidden. "Thank you all for coming," she began smoothly. "As you know, our family has faced an unspeakable hardship with Uzodima's tragic condition. Today we'd like to discuss the transfer of temporary executive control." The double doors swung open. All eyes turned and Uzodima Okoye walked in, supported only slightly by a cane, dressed in the unmistakable dignity of someone who had faced death and won. Gasps filled the room. Cameras clicked. Kemi turned white. Hugo froze. Uzodima didn't say a word until he reached the center of the room. Then he laid one hand flat on the table and looked directly at his stepmother. "I see you started without me. You're awake," Kemi stammered. "This is how." Uzodima raised a hand. "Save it." He turned to the reporters. "I've been conscious for several weeks now. I was in a coma briefly." "Yes." "But when I woke up, I realized something was wrong. Very wrong." Namdi stepped forward, opened the briefcase, and pulled out a small tablet. Uzodinma nodded to Angel, who stood quietly at the back of the room, unnoticed until now. He met her eyes for a split second, enough to ground him. Then he pressed play. The room filled with the voices of Hugo and Kemi. "We just need to keep him sedated. He won't be a problem much longer. We file the DNR once she's out of the picture." Gasps. Murmurs. One executive stood. Another sat down with a hand over his mouth. Kemi tried to speak. That's taken out of context." Uzodinma's voice cut through like a blade. "You tried to erase me and you almost succeeded. If it hadn't been for one person," he turned to Angel, "I wouldn't be here." Angel froze as the room turned toward her. Uzodinma continued while everyone else was planning their next move. "She stayed. She cared. She saved me." Hugo narrowed her eyes. "You fell for the nurse." Uzodinma looked at her coldly. "No, I chose her just like she chose not to be complicit in your crime." The board members began murmuring among themselves. Namdi took over, announcing pending charges, formal investigations, and the reinstatement of Uzodinma's full authority. Kemi and Hugo left the room in silence, their legacy crumbling behind them. Outside the boardroom, away from the chaos, Uzodinma leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Angel rushed to his side. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," he corrected. She hesitated, looking around. Everyone saw. "Everyone knows now," he reached for her hand. "Good," he said quietly. "Because I want the world to know who saved me and who I want to be beside me from now on." She looked at him, eyes full. Uzodinma. But there were no more words needed. Not now. Because the truth was out, and they were finally free to live it. Angel didn't stay for the applause. She slipped away the moment the boardroom erupted in whispers and camera flashes, ducking through a side door and out into the cold afternoon air. Her hands shook as she pressed the elevator button. The love story. Outside, Angel slipped away, overwhelmed by headlines calling her a hero or a schemer. Uzodinma found her in the nurse's lounge, packing her things. "You're leaving?" he asked. "I have to," she said. "You left this," he said. "You didn't think I'd let it go on red, did you?" Angel's cheeks flushed. "That wasn't meant for anyone," he finished gently. "I know." He opened the notebook of confessions to a page near the middle. "I read this part 5 times, he said. "The night you said you were falling for me and you hated it because you were scared. Because you thought I'd see you differently." He closed the notebook and looked up. "I'm not scared, Angel. I love you. Not the nurse, but the woman who saw me when I was invisible." Tears fell. "What now?" she asked. "Come with me," he said. "Not as a nurse. As you." Then Uzodinma did something he hadn't done since before the crash. He smiled. And Adaora stepped forward into his arms, into the still beating truth of what they had built day by day, word by word, one heartbeat at a time. Because some love stories don't begin with fireworks. Some begin in silence and grow louder when we finally choose to listen. 1 year later, Kemi and Hugo were convicted, their names erased from Obi Hill elite circles. Uzodinma stepped back from Okoye Conglomerate, launching the Angel Care Foundation to protect patients and empower vulnerables. Angel, now his fiancée, ran its first clinic in Enugu. They built a retreat in Calabar, a simple bungalow by the Cross River, where they escaped to dance to Flavor's music and plan their future. One evening, under a mango tree, Uzodima proposed with a coral bead ring. "Marry me, angel. Not the tycoon, just me." "Yes," she laughed, tears shining. Their wedding was small, in a garden by the clinic, with jollof rice and high-life tunes. A young nurse in the crowd, inspired by Angel's courage, whispered, "She's why I'm here." As stars lit the sky, Uzodima and Angel sat hand in hand. "Will they forget?" he asked. "No," she said. "Not if it reminds them love can outshine betrayal." Thank you. If this story stirred your soul, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Oyem's Folklore Stories for more tales of love, suspense, and triumph. Share this with someone who believes in the power of truth. Stay blessed, and remember, even in silence, love speaks loudest.